Now let's go to the manuscript paper. So I use my percussion clef. I know that in the first 3 bars of the introduction there are no drums. So I'm going to write a repeat signs, and I'm going to use a whole rest, and then I'm going to write the number 3. Bar 4 has the introduction of the drums. It's a half rest for counts 1 and 2. There's an 8th rest on count 3, but then there is 2 16th notes at the end of count 3. So that's just 3 and a. So it's the and of beat 3. 4th beat is going to be 4 16th notes with accents on the snare. Make sure you can see all that. Let me move over this way. Then we have the main groove of the intro. I heard alternating sticking, which is just right, left, right, left. So you just alternate between your right and left hands on the hi-hat. I have 16 16th notes. I heard a downbeat on beat 1 plus 2 16th notes on the and of 1. So I'm going to write that in. So it's just 1 and which is basically just 8th to 16th notes. Coming down on the snare on 2. Beat 3, you're going to play the kick on the and then you have a bark on the hi-hat. I'll explain what that is on the drum set breakdown section. Bring that bark down on count 4, so you're closing it with your foot, closing the hi-hat cymbals with your foot pedal on the hi-hat, and then it's just a backbeat on beat 4. Then you play that for 1, 2, 3, looks like 3 bars. So a grand total of 4 bars. Well, actually it's 3 bars, and then you play a fill in between 3 bars. So this is what I'm going to do, just to make things quick. I'm going to write a repeat section here. And I'm going to write 3 times here. I'll make this one the transitional fill. Like that. Put in my stems here. Kick pattern didn't change. Beat 2 didn't change. Beat 3 didn't change. Also, what I'm thinking about, let's put the accent marks over the downbeats and the backbeats. I like that because it's the 2 sound concept that David Garibaldi teaches in his Future Sounds book. If you know what I'm talking about, then you understand why I did that. If you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, I highly recommend buying David Garibaldi's Future Sounds book and reading up on his explanation of 2 sound concept. The next thing I want to write in would be the last 4 bars going into verse 1. So I'll just do it this way. I'll probably shortcut it again real quick. So it's the same kick pattern and backbeat pattern. That's not different. Get my stems in here. And guys, this part of the tutorial is really just for people who can read music, but they've never written notated music themselves. This is for them. So this is your intermediate to more advanced musicians. If you're a beginner, I'll have to create a tutorial to show you how to read and write drum set notation. But this is for people that do know how to do that. How many bars did I say? Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So 4 more bars. So it's 3-bar groove, and then going into the fill, decrescendo into verse 1. So I'm going to do what I did up above as a quick note, and I'll just say 3 times. And then here is going to be the transition fill. You know what? Let's see. How do I probably won't make it as... Oh yeah, I will. Let's just do it this way. Snare beats on the and of beat 3. And we'll go into mid-tom and floor tom 16th note fill idea. And this will be a decrescendo going into verse 1. So it's the same kick drum pattern on 1, downbeat or backbeat on 2, downbeat on beat 3, then it's 2/16 on the snare followed by 2/16 on the medium tom or rack tom 2 to the 2/16 notes on the floor tom. Then we have a crash, and now we are going to work on the groove idea for verse 1. And you're probably thinking, Sean, how do you remember all these rhythms? Well, it's because I've played it quite a few times in church, and I already have the drum chart. So it's easy for me to just write it out real quick. Otherwise, I'd be continuing listening to the track and trying to figure out the drum patterns. So that's a tip. You're going to have to keep listening to the track so you understand what the drum patterns are being played in each section so that you can notate it out. It takes a little time, but since I already know it, I'm cheating a little bit. But there's a little legwork you're going to have to do if you're not used to this. So verse 1 has a different groove than the intro. It's just backbeat on 1 and 3. I'm sorry, downbeat on 1 and 3, backbeats on 2 and 4. You repeat that for 2 bars. So I'm just going to say 2 times. The snare pattern changes on bars 3 and 4. So let's write that in so you can see what that looks like. So I get my 16/16 notes here because the hi-hat pattern didn't change. It's still the same pattern. And then on beat 3 for bar 3 and 4, you've got a downbeat on beat 3, but then you have a snare hit on the of 3. And then you have a kick on the E of 4. And that repeats. So I'm going to put a 1 measure repeat. So let's go ahead. I keep creeping my paper closer and closer to the camera when it's probably going to get out of focus. So now this is going to be a little different when you actually play this. I cross my hands, so I play the beat 2 with my right hand, so I'll just put an R there. let me think about this. So, 2, 3, yeah, and I play the snare count of beat 3 with my left, so I cross it down. I'll demonstrate this in the drum set breakdown section segment of this tutorial. And it's a little sloppy. And then it just repeats, and then you finish out the groove. I'm trying to think how many more bars. 1, 2, 3, 4 more bars. So I'll just quickly write that in. And repeat that. Now here's what's getting tricky. Oops. I'm getting sloppy in a hurry. I'm not going to be able to write in a repeat here because I know that I have at the last bar of this 8-bar phrase for verse 1, I have a fill. So I'll just write this in again for the groove. And I'll write in my segments here where the downbeat and the backbeat come in. Put in my stems. And then I'm going to cheat here because I know what that is. That groove is going into the last bar. I'm going to use 2 slash marks, which tells me for 2 beats, play the same groove or ad lib. And then beat 3 I'm going to write in. Okay. And that's going to crescendo. No, it's not, because this is the first, going to the first chorus. It's going to decrescendo into the first chorus. So on the chorus, this is pretty cool because it's different than the second chorus. We have a crash with the kick. We have a quarter rest for beat 2, and then we have a half rest for beats 3 and 4. Then we have a 5-bar measure rest. So I'm going to write my whole rest there, call it 5. Then we come into a bass, guitar, and kick drum pattern on bar 7 of the chorus, first chorus. So it's downbeat on the kick for 1. We have a half rest for beats 2 and 3. We're going to have a 16th note rest followed by a 16th note and an 8th to signify the and count on the kick drum on beat 4. Then it's a kick on 1, rest on beat 2, kick on beat 3, rest on beat 4. Then this repeats twice. So I'm going to write my two repeat signs here. Let me move this back so you can see it. I'm going to make my 2 repeat signs here. Then the pattern changes up just a little bit. So then we have kick on 1, half rest, 16th note rest, 16th note kick, 8th rest. But then it's kick on 1, quarter rest, half rest, and then we go into kick, half rest, 16th note rest, 16th note kick, 8th rest. Is that right? Let me look at that. I think that's right. Oh, no, it's not right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, no, that's correct. Yep. And then, coming out of that phrase into our 4-bar interlude, we kick on 1, rest on beat 2, come in with an 8th rest on beat 3, but play the kick drum on the and of beat 3, followed by 4 16th notes on the snare with a crescendo, and then you're into the interlude. The interlude is just nothing more than the same intro pattern. So I'm not going to write that. I'm going to say same as intro groove. And then I'm going to put slash marks. So that goes for 4 bars. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we do a decrescendo into verse 2. So if verse 2 is the same as verse 1 rhythmically and bar wise. See, this is second verse, this is first verse. It's exactly the same rhythmically and number of bars. So I'm going to say same as verse 1. It just saves a lot of time. And I'll put in there repeat 8 bars. Put in my slash notation. Then we go from verse 2 right into the next chorus. This one's different because now you're full band in. So I'm going to say, I'm going to move it down here. I don't want to move this out of focus here. I'm going to move, instead of using this section here, I'll just come down here for chorus 2. Chorus 2 is the exact same drum groove as the intro. Don't believe me? Listen to the track. It's the exact same thing. And just say repeat it. Repeat that groove. Let me see how many times I want to repeat it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 bars. So I'll say 5 times. Then you have a fill. I'm going to use a slash mark and say fill. Then you repeat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more bars of the same groove. So let me write in my 16/16 notes. Oh, that's wrong. Ignore that little mess there. I'm just in a hurry now. I did it again. You know, scribble it out. Make sure my notes are correct. Sorry guys, I should have made that more legible. Okay, put my stems in. Forgetting the stem here too. Make sure everything connects. Okay. Then I have another fill. Well, let's see. How many bars do they say after that first fill idea? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bars. We'll say repeat for 7 bars. 7 times. Come into our fill. The fill is going to be 1/8, 2/16, followed by an 1/8, 2/8, excuse me, followed by C, 16th notes on the snare to the high rack tom or tom tom 1 to the mid, and then the floor toms. And this is a decrescendo. You're going to hit on one of the bridge. So this is going to the bridge. So you hit on beat 1, kick and crash, rest on beat 2, and then it's just a half rest for 3 and 4 beat for the 3rd and 4th beat. Then you have 10 bars of measure rest. Woohoo! Nothing like counting 10 bars. It gets old. So we'll do a whole rest here. And we'll say 10. That does not look like a 10. That looks like a 10 now. Then on the 12th bar of the bridge, you have a whole note representing a suspended cymbal roll. That's single stroke, not double. Single stroke, for those who do not know. Again, I'll demonstrate that. Going into the halftime feel. How do I want to write this? You know what? I usually play at 1/8 to 16th notes. On the rim of the snare. Oops. Actually comes on the 3rd beat on the snare. Play on the end of beat 4. I'll say rim click, even though I'm not talking about cross sticking, I'll just mean rim click. And repeat that for, oh, I need to make sure that that's a crash on beat 1, and then I use a tie to show that I'm coming out of the suspended cymbal roll to land on that first beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's repeating this section at least 3 times before I have a fill. Then I have another piece of paper that I need to use because it's starting to get pretty long. So before I do that, make sure you can see this. I'm going to label that as page 1. I'm going to call this page 2. So I had a fill. Mid tom, floor tom, 16th note fill idea. Beat 3, snare hit. then we do all 4 on the floor on the kick drum. Just means quarter notes for 4 beats on the kick drum. That's what 4 on the floor means. And then that gets repeated for 1, 2, 3 bars. So I'll just say repeat twice, because the 3rd bar is going to be the fill going into the transition of the 2-bar interlude. So I'll just say fill. And then crash. And that's just a hit on the kick and crash. On beat 1, you have a quarter rest for beat 2, half rest for beats 3 and 4. Then you go into the little intro groove. So I'll write this in. Almost done. I'll just say fill. Slash marks, fill. Last chorus. Okay, so the chorus, the last chorus. See, we came out of the bridge. So we have the ending, which is the last chorus. 5, 10, 15, 18 bars. So it's just 14 bars. So it's the chorus again, 14 bars. So I'll say same as chorus 2. Slash marks. I'm going to write 14 times. And then it's just a 4-bar ending, which is just nothing more than the same intro groove that we played in the beginning. I wrote that a little too close together, but you get the idea. I'm going to say repeat 3 times. And then here's my very last bar. Oh, not that one. Sorry. Here's my last bar. That's correct. Because it's a strong 16th note, 4 16th notes on the snare. Get my stems in here. I didn't put all my accents there, but I would put all the accents there. And there's my ending. All right. So, I'll show you what the finished product looks like when I write it in Finale print music. This is what it looks like. It's a little cleaner. So, stepping back, I wrote the entire chart, counting out each bar for each section. Then I got a piece of manuscript paper. I hand wrote all the rhythms. Let me make sure this is nice and neat. I made sure I wrote all the rhythms in by hand with notes telling me where the sections are. And then I just took that and rewrote it in Finale print music. You can do it in Sibelius. You can do it in some other software notation of your choice. And I have 3 sheets of the actual chart. You can probably whittle that down to at least 1.5. But I use an iPad, so I'm able to just quickly scroll, or usually I can get 2 pages if I turn the iPad horizontally. I can get the horizontal access and give me the 2 pages of the PDF side by side, and then I just have to flip for the last page, which is pretty simple to do. But that's it. That is the drum charting, or I should say the song charting and the drum set notation segment. Now for the last segment, we're going to go into the drum set breakdown. So stay tuned for the next segment of the series so that you can understand how it works.